Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host of the Love You Even More podcast. I'm an author, performer, producer, and Emmy Award winner. Each week, I bring on inspiring people and experts in their field to have powerful, motivational, and enlightened conversations about relationships, self-development, and how you can love yourself even more. Follow us for daily updates at Love You Even More podcast and at Jackie Brubaker on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. For more on myself and the podcast, including ways that you can love yourself even more, go to loveyouevenmore.com. Welcome, Chris Rackliffe, to the Love You Even More podcast. Chris is an author and an anxious attachment coach. He specializes in all things anxious attachment, dating, styles, just all of the above to really help you find the person you're trying to, find, be the person you're trying to be, and just evolve. I'm going to read your bio because it was great. And I'm just going to read it. All right. So he is a personal development writer and anxious attachment style coach whose ability to paint with words has touched the lives of millions of people around the world. He shares stories that cut straight to the heart, detailing his own heartfelt and harrowing experiences to help others lead happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives. In his books and blogs, keynotes, and coaching sessions, he blends principles of psychology, philosophy, physics, and spirituality with his signature storytelling aimed to make you feel, heal, and heard. His new book, It's Good to See Me Again, How to Find Your Way When You Feel Lost, is a guidebook on the journey to emotional healing. And it's available on Amazon now. Chris, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm grateful to be here.
So let's talk about, because on this podcast, I've had quite a few women come on to talk about anxious attachment style and what it feels like for us. Let's talk about what it feels like for a man, no matter what you identify as, either gender or sexuality or any of the above. I definitely have men in my life who are anxious attachment or who used to be, or they're now secure, but they're still, that's what runs deep is the anxious attachment. I used to think I am a little avoidant. I'm not disorganized. I'm actually securely attached now. Thank you very much.
Woo.
I try my best. But it is very clear recently that I do lean more in the anxious attachment, from my past. And it makes a lot of sense why that would feel that way. But let's talk about it more from like a male perspective, because it is the flip of the coin here.
It really is. And I think for anyone listening to this, it's so important to know that regardless of gender identity, sexuality, the same events, the same kinds of trauma relationally lead to developing this adaptation, this survival approach to relationships. Yeah. That's where the anxious attachment style comes from. I also want to validate for folks, this is a style of relating to others and building relationships. And I love the way that you validated your own experience there, Jackie, because it does make sense. And for the clients that I work with as their coach who are experiencing anxious attachment, I always help them to validate where this comes from for them and really get to the origin. And, for those who are listening who might be women and have felt kind of stereotyped in the past regarding, oh, well, she's emotional, she must be anxiously attached. Please hear me clearly when I say that it's estimated that up to a quarter of the global population experiences anxious attachment. It cuts across any societal, cultural, identifying labels or factors. I have many clients who are straight men. I'm a man myself, obviously. I'm a gay man, so my experience is different. But that said, no matter what your identity, really going back to some of the same core traumas that happen is there regardless of what you identify as right now, whether that's a man, non-binary, a woman, or gay, straight, bisexual, etc. Wherever you are on a variety of different spectrums, you can experience anxious attachment. And many people don't know this about me because they find my videos on TikTok. I have a community there of over 100,000 followers, or they find me on my website where I have hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. And they don't know that I struggled with anxious attachment for years, for the majority of my life, really. And my trauma started before I was even born, with the death of my grandmother, who was an alcoholic. And my mother was an alcoholic and passed away when I was 18.
I'm sorry.
And my sister also passed away of addiction. So 3 generations of women in my family experienced addiction. Addiction naturally creates codependency in not only the person who experiences it, but those around them. And so, codependency being a core component of anxious attachment, it makes a lot of sense why I developed that adaptive approach relationally. There were, of course, a lot of other factors in my own journey as well. I'm kind of distilling this down. But that said, trauma for me is similar to, a lot of what I hear from the clients all over the globe that I work with. I've worked with clients on 5 continents, every continent except for Africa and Antarctica so far. So I just want people to understand this is incredibly common and it is changeable. I don't use the word fixable because I don't look at human beings as being broken or requiring fixing. And that language is very damaging and reflective of shame, which is also a core component of anxious attachment. But talking about yourself that way only perpetuates that state. But please know you can evolve out of this pattern of relating to others. It is learned and it can be unlearned.
Absolutely.
I'm living proof. You're living proof.
We are both. Yes. No, it's really interesting. I think so much of it has to do with learning how to trust yourself, because if you're anxiously attached and you're naturally codependent, you're naturally looking for validation and security, and you haven't been getting that, you're constantly looking outward instead of inward. And once that trusting of yourself starts to occur, you can really start to feel that, oh, I can make good choices. Oh, I can pick partners that even if it doesn't work out, I'm still okay. Can we talk about that and how you work with people to learn how to better trust themselves, or how you get people sort of on the right path to healing their anxiousness?
Absolutely. Because this is where the gold is for folks. Everyone wants to know how to grow more secure, and nobody really has a plan or knows where to start. And yes, a lack of self-trust, self-worth are key components of anxious attachment, or really being anywhere on the insecure side of the attachment spectrum, whether that's avoidant, disorganized, or anxious. So when it comes to healing and growing more secure, and remember, these are not absolute propositions. No one is absolutely secure, just like no one is absolutely anxious 100% of the time. I love how you mentioned earlier, you consider yourself to be more secure. Same. I would consider myself to be about 75% secure, maybe 25% anxious. That's hugely different from what it was for me, even maybe 5 years ago. And obviously there's a huge component of doing this work that is healing for me, to know that the traumas I experienced don't have to be defined by darkness, and instead can be tools for light and healing for others as well as myself. But really, it boils down to a couple of things. Many people try to think their way out of their feelings, or try to use cognitive approaches only when it comes to healing. And it just doesn't work, because your body has been conditioned, your nervous system has been imprinted over time to expect abandonment, rejection, betrayal. And so when you go through the kinds of hurtful experiences that I hear about on a day-to-day basis doing this work, whether it's physically, literally being neglected by a parent, abandoned by a parent, having someone pass away, like in my case, maybe even being abused emotionally, sexually, these leave imprints on your body, and you learn to anticipate danger. This creates that hypervigilance you were mentioning earlier. It is a natural response, but it is conditioned. As you can imagine, we don't emerge from the womb anticipating danger. Our bodies are hardwired for connection and belonging and also survival.
Mhm.
The body learns over time that it has to do what it has to do in order to survive. So the anxious attachment style, like any attachment style, is an adaptation. When you don't have warmth, acceptance, love, support, encouragement modeled for you consistently growing up. And for many folks, it does go back to childhood. Not always, but for many, many of the people I work with, it does. You have to learn as an adult to reparent yourself in the ways that you never experienced. You have to learn that you play an active role in the people you allow to have access to you, how you take care of yourself, how you slow down instead of that urgency that you feel when you're in a survival or trauma response,
Right.
fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and learn to better regulate your emotions. It changes the game. So, one of the key things that I have my clients do on a daily basis is what I call, and I'm using air quotes for those who are only listening, the daily self care practice. And this is really a more colloquial way of describing nervous system regulation techniques. Yes, there are top down or cognitive techniques, mind driven techniques, journaling, etc. It's not to say that those are bad or you shouldn't do them. Many people just stop with cognitive techniques. They don't do somatic or physiological or bottom up techniques, things like yoga, meditation, cold exposure in particular. These help to build tolerance for stress in the body proactively. So instead of doing what most people do, which is spiraling mentally, which is, a trauma response, you're dissociating from the body. We learn this as a form of survival when you're young and you don't learn how to feel your feelings and you don't have people attuned to you to say, honey, sweetheart, what's wrong? How can I be here for you? Where are you hurting? When you don't experience that, you'll do what you need in order to survive, including and especially anticipating danger. So nervous system regulation is critical for the work.
I have a thought, and let me know what you think about this. I just had this tiny little, maybe epiphany, little thought while you were talking. I think we have seen such a rise in physical panic attacks within the last 5, maybe 10 years, right? Way more than what's really been happening. I wonder, because I've been thinking a lot about intellectualizing your emotions and your feelings and all of that. I wonder if people are having more and panic attacks are physical, you guys. If you haven't had one, lucky you. But they are a physical reaction to anxiety. I wonder if that's because we have been trying to intellectualize all of our feelings away and not doing bottom up exposure where you are really working with your feelings and your body together. It's just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. When you reach a state of such dysregulation, and many people don't understand what that word means, what it simply means is you're either overreacting or underreacting in order to cope with the situation at hand. So you're not coping an appropriate amount. And you can see this kind of frenetic energy in people, but it builds and it builds and it builds until you reach a state of panic or maybe at a lesser scale, you can't focus at work. You can't think about anything because you haven't heard back from that person. Communication is a big one for all relationships, but especially for anxious attachers. It's by far the number one trigger I hear about on a day-to-day basis. I didn't hear back via text, or I haven't heard from him or them or her. And so I want to normalize and validate for folks that is absolutely normal.
Yeah.
And consider the conditions and the context in which we're living right now. Culturally, societally, there's so much pressure. It feels like we're living in a time where it's almost a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Respond to emails immediately. Get back to all the people who are texting you. Try to take care of yourself while also dealing with, at times, feeling like the world is falling apart in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of political pressure. There's a lot of pressure to perform at work again. And that
Yeah.
kind of urgency is not healthy for the body over time. And our culture here in the United States in particular over glamorizes working and being
Mhm.
busy.
Mhm.
And you can't exist at that level of exertion for forever. You have to slow down. And stillness is where a lot of the gold really is here. Learning to sit and be with yourself instead of packing your schedule full of dinners and brunches and all of the, experiences that we've been pressured to feel like we need to do, going to the gym and staying up to date on movies and television and what people are talking about in pop culture. It's a lot. We're living in very interesting times. And remember, a lot of the things we're living through now did not exist 30 years ago. So this is a gigantic social experiment. And many of us are seeing what those pressures lead to. And this is why mental health in general and attachment styles specifically have become such a part of the zeitgeist
Mhm.
and a part of our cultural conversation because many people are learning that the way that they're living is not sustainable. So,
Yeah.
whether that's leading to panic attacks or whether it's leading to you not being able to feel like you can attract or find the kind of partner that you want, dating apps is another pressure cooker environment. Many people, because of the influence of social media, feel like they need to present their best possible selves all the time. It's
Mhm.
not realistic, it's not sustainable, and it's not real. And
Yeah.
so I just want to acknowledge that. And I tell my clients all the time, context is everything. We talk about the influences of what, is really going on in their lives, whether that's at work or with friends or with, of course, potential or actual romantic partners.
Right.
That's where anxious attachers feel most acutely vulnerable and anxious. That's where we tend to be most exposed emotionally and
Right.
therefore more triggered. But it can come out at work, it can come out with friends. And so
Absolutely.
learning to really cope is so important, especially nowadays where there's so much noise and
Yeah.
busyness around us. Learning to turn back inwards and trusting yourself and giving yourself what it is that you need, whether that is listening to your body and using some of those bottom up techniques that we were talking about, or even just saying to yourself, many people are very isolated nowadays,
Mhm.
saying to yourself, I've been stuck at home for days now. I haven't even left the house. I should probably go for a walk.
Mhm.
I should probably hang out with a friend.
Yeah.
It sounds super basic, but you got to get the basics down. That's
Yeah.
where I encourage clients to start always.
That's a great place to start. Even if, because I can so relate to that. I mean, I work from home most of the time anyway. And so especially if the weather is not disastrous outside, I love going and taking long walks every morning. Like it's part of my workout. I love it so much. Um, and it gets you out of your house and smelling fresh air and seeing everything happening around you. And like right now, we're in spring. So like everything is blooming and there's like little animals everywhere. I mean, it's really beautiful. And it kind of is this very small but realistic reminder that life keeps moving. We can be in our little
Mm,
tiny world on social media and inside our houses, but life keeps moving. And I think in those moments when anxiousness really does like attack, you're waiting for that text back or, what's going to happen? Do they still like me? Are we still together?
mhm.
Getting out into the real world outside your house and just smelling fresh air and recognizing like, yes, the world is still moving. It's still going. You are too, is a really great way to just kind of recenter quickly and just be aware that there's so much more happening and life is still going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In my book, It's Good to See Me Again, I talk about a lot of those cycles of nature and how they show us our true nature as human beings, the ability to let go. There's an example I tell all the time about how the trees don't grasp onto the leaves in autumn because they know there's more growth coming back in the spring. How cycles are constantly unfolding around us, things are constantly changing. And our senses show us this. We would not be able to perceive anything with our senses if nothing changed. There would be nothing to perceive.
Right.
You hear things, you see things, you taste things as relative differences to what came before. And these are important reminders, not only of our humanity, our divinity, and the balance that we need to find between those two things. Our senses show us, remind us of what's really important, and they bring us back into our body, especially during times where we dissociate from the body and go up into the mind as a way of coping.
Right.
For instance, when you're not hearing back from someone. And so that form of dissociation, which can take many forms, is counterbalanced by using the senses to ground yourself and getting out into nature. I mean, what better way to do that? There's a reason why going to the beach and putting your toes in the sand and smelling the salt air and feeling the ocean breeze is so rejuvenative for people. It engages so many different senses, and it reminds us of what we're really here to do, which is to be present for the full human experience, even if we don't like it, even if it's challenging, and to not resist what all of those experiences have to teach us, because there's something to be learned from every emotion and from every experience that we're having. And, you know, that mix of top down and bottom up is where the magic happens. It's not that you can't use things like journaling or gratitude. They obviously work, but they only get you so far. Your body has visceral reactions to the environment around you that are precognitive, that are subconscious and unconscious. And learning how to exist in harmony with those, and learning how to better take care of this vessel with which we have been gifted, is a huge part of the work that many people don't focus on. So whether it's nutrition, hydration, sleep, again, going back to the core components, super important. Identifying any deficiencies in your diet. Supplements are a big part of this too. The American diet in particular is not very well balanced. And many people, because of the societal and cultural conditions I mentioned earlier, aren't taking care of themselves in the way that we are responsible for doing ultimately.
Absolutely. So I have well, it's not a theory, but so when people are in relationship and as an anxiously attached person, or even just dating, going back into the idea that we're, kind of trying to like get out of our heads, right? And like, just we're disassociating because it's too much, or we're just way too much in our heads. I do feel that when we're in relationship in any which way, whether it's dating or actual long-term committed, I mean, man, it's going to bring up some stuff. It's going to be hard. It's going to be like, here's your mirror. Now enjoy figuring this all out. And when things start to get hard, either for you or the partner or together, anxiously attached people are more likely to like hold on and be like, no, maybe when they should leave, or when things get tough, they want to just cling. If you are an anxiously attached person who's experiencing conflict or just bumps, right? It's getting a little rocky. Like, I don't know what's going on here. And that anxiousness starts flooding up. What are some of the ways that they can handle that and address that too?
Wonderful question. I had a client say to me the other day, and I actually wrote this down. I'm working on my next book right now based on this work. And I'm going to include this in the book, and I want people to hear this. She said to me, I learned to associate conflict with abandonment. So when I feel like someone is angry with me, I immediately feel like I'm going to be left.
Absolutely. I so relate to that. Worked really hard to make sure that goes away. It's always there though.
Of course. Learning to cope is so important, and remembering that for many of us, it's taken years of instability, inconsistency, lack of reciprocity, lack of a sense of safety to get us to where we are now. It is going to take time to learn how to cope. It's not just going to change overnight. But that said, healing is not time dependent, it is safety dependent. So learning again to realize you play an active role in who you allow to have access to you, what you tolerate in relation with others, and learning how to set boundaries is a big part of the work, although it is very uncomfortable at first, of course. But the sooner you do this, the sooner you set the tone and you see who really cares and who really will reciprocate, who really is a safe person and who is not, who has perhaps been benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Those are the people that are going to be upset by your boundaries, not the people that really care about you because they realize that learning what makes you feel appreciated and understood and supported is a good thing because that ensures the longevity of the connection. Super important. And learning to validate yourself and to practice positive self-talk is a big one. Because during those moments that you just described, Jackie, that is where most people are invalidating themselves in the same way that they have experienced from others. They will tell themselves, why am I making such a big deal of this? It's not that big of a deal. Why am I so anxious? I need to get over this. I can't believe this is coming up for me again. I thought I was past this. What they're doing is they're shaming themselves.
Right.
And as I mentioned earlier, no amount of self-invalidation, self-shaming, self-criticism, self-loathing, self-deprecation gets you to a more secure place. It only gets you more of what you're giving yourself. Right. You have to learn to say to yourself, put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath and say, this makes sense. I've seen this before. I understand why I'm having this reaction. I know what this is telling me. It's telling me I need to slow down and be with myself. It's a signal from the body that I don't feel safe. Yeah. And when you are triggered and you're having a nervous system response, it is nearly impossible to have a level-headed, clear, compassionate conversation with someone. That's because the blood in your brain immediately flows to the limbic and emotional parts of the brain, which are at the center of your brain, near your brain stem. Our higher order level of thinking occurs here in the prefrontal cortex. If there's no blood there, there's no energy and there's no synapses firing, or at least not as much as they would be for you to have the conversation you need to have. So you need to self-soothe and you need to compose and you need to do whatever it is that makes you feel calm again. Absolutely. Every person, this looks a little different. We all have different ways that resonate with us most, and this has to do usually with the experiences that we've been through and just what helps us better connect with our bodies. So a lot of those proactive techniques that I mentioned earlier are also good reactively, but it helps to build that tolerance in advance. So for instance, now in my own healing journey, I'm up to almost 15 minutes of cold exposure a week.
Wow.
So I'm practicing cold exposure on a daily basis, even if it's just washing my hands in cold water. But now I'm taking fully cold showers multiple times a week.
Oh my gosh, that's impressive.
And yeah, and thank you. That kind of discomfort, though, that you're practicing being with is the point, because it's a trial run for when that trigger response happens viscerally in your body. You identify it. You've got even just a couple more seconds to be like, I know what this is. I've got this. Okay. And your body learns how to cope with it. For many of us, because we become dysregulated or became dysregulated in the past as a form of coping, we never learned how to complete stress cycles in our body. We get stuck in it. And this is why trauma is stored in the body and why movement and exercise and yoga and stretching and exposing the body to cold or to kind of more jarring things to the senses. Like for instance, citrus or sour tastes can also shock the body too. Wow. And spicy foods in particular, they can do this too. You're training your body to be able to cope with extremes. So just like you go to the gym for building cardiovascular health, having this proactive routine where you're building nervous system health And remember, your body is integrated. It's not separate. Your gut health, your mental health, your cardiovascular health, or, how you're exercising or moving your body, it's all connected. So the same techniques that you can use proactively to build that tolerance, you can use as ways of coping. So for instance, if you're triggered, you can take a cold shower. Many people aren't immediately going to love doing that. And that's the whole point. It's a stressful situation. Even sometimes I now have to build myself up before I'm hopping in there. But once I'm in there, I love it. And I've actually grown to crave it.
So are you suggesting that we do that just as sort of a practice, or that we should do that when we are triggered, we should go do something like a cold shower?
Both. It's better proactively to build the tolerance in advance. Okay. But if you need to reset the nervous system when it is triggered, you can use the same techniques.
And that will just help us to regain blood flow to our cerebral cortex and to regulate faster and when triggered.
Correct.
Amazing. Yes. Yikes.
And remember, these are not all or nothing proposition. Oh, I know. I mean, there are benefits to both hot water and cold water. And so I don't want folks to just hear this and be like, I'm taking only cold showers from here on out. But that said, it's a different type of stress for the body to be in, and it gives you a sense of control or agency that many of us who experience relational trauma never had. We didn't have control over the circumstances that caused the stress in our body initially. So this is also a form of taking back that control.
Yeah, amazing. I think you are a wealth of knowledge, and I would actually love to have you back on. But can you tell people how they can find you and your book and all of the things? Because I think you are just fantastic, and there's so much we could talk about.
Oh my goodness, Jackie, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. The time has flown.
I know.
So if folks are interested in working with me, you can find me on TikTok at Rackliffe, Crackkliffe. It's like Rackliffe with 2 F's. I literally talk about that nickname on the first page of my book. It's Good to See Me Again, which is live on Amazon and available for purchase there. But you can find me on TikTok or Instagram. Both handles are at Rackliffe or Rackliffe with 2 F's. Also, my website is crackliffe.com. So crackliffe.com. And if you're interested in setting up a free consultation to explore coaching and working with me on your healing journey, I would be honored to do that work with you. And you can visit crackliffe.com/coaching.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm deeply grateful.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. Make sure to rate the podcast and leave a review. We really rely on this to help get the podcast out there.